I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 18th of June, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. And today we're going to be covering the rather important and really interesting and significant parade of the Gigantonas, or giantesses, and the Toros, or the bulls, of Sutiava, which is the barrio where I live. We're going to get to that right after the bump. Alright, before we actually get into showing the parade today, I actually wanted to take a really quick note because I say this so often that it's actually pretty easy to miss. But every day on the show I say, this is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. And the show is called the Scott Allen Miller Vlog, and before that it was called the Sheep Guarding Llama Vlog for historic reasons. But the one thing that's been consistent is I always refer to it as my vlog of my daily life, right? And before I lived in Nicaragua, it was just my vlog of daily life. And I have gotten over the years a number of complaints, and a number, like in the last week, of people who seem genuinely upset that they have come to my show. They've selected my vlog out of a list of possible shows to watch, made an effort to go watch it, and then take an effort to make a comment, literally complaining that they chose a vlog. It's a bit weird. It's kind of like those Amazon reviews where someone bought the wrong product and then reviews it negatively based on it, them wanting some other product. This is a terrible chair, meant to order a chair, accidentally ordered a washing machine. This thing's a garbage chair, 1 star. Basically, that's what these reviews are like, right? I'm getting feedback of people who are complaining that I'm talking about my daily life. Now, I totally understand why, for the majority of people, that's not what you're looking for, given. Like I have an odd format. I go against all the rules. I'm long-winded. Is that the right term? Yes, I'm long-winded. I am just vlogging in general, not super popular. Sometimes I'm just in a room, although a lot of times that works, but I try to get out and about. I'm vlogging about topics that people are rarely interested in. Those of you who are here, obviously you're super interested, but most people, this is out there, and I go for really long formats instead of very short. It's a completely different thing. I mean, like, absolutely different than any formula, any algorithm is going to push, and that's just, I mean, I made this for my dad. This was my personal vlog to my father, and meant for, like, my kids to be able to go back and see in the future, you know, when I'm gone and they want to remember things or whatever. That's where I started. And so this is just my personal online diary that has now morphed, I understand, into kind of travel and relocation and Nicaragua information, and that's great, and I'm loving it, and thank you everyone who's here. But at its core, this remains my vlog, and my people, the people who live in my GoPro, who actually live there and aren't just, you know, getting a hotel room for the night because they got snowed in my YouTube land, are coming back for the formula that we have, right? They want something they can relax with. And I know some of you are like, I wish it was shorter, but I put up with it. Some of you say, I wish it was longer, but I put up with it. Some of you like the music and the bump. Some people hate it. Like, it's all over the place. But the formula is something you put up with, and a lot of you every morning, right? This is, have your coffee and do the show. So I can't just go change the formula. That would change my audience, right? I would have a different show if I did that, and it wouldn't be my vlog anymore. So while I could go make another show, it would just be another show. It wouldn't be this show. This show is a vlog. It's kind of like watching a sitcom and then being upset that it wasn't a drama. Oh, this thing is terrible. Why did you make all these jokes? I wanted a drama. But you chose a sitcom. This is a vlog. If you're watching it, that's what you chose. I'm sorry. That's just, I can't help you. So to the people complaining that I'm making a vlog, I don't know what to tell you. That was my little insight on that. I thought it was weird getting those, like, what a weird thing to complain about. And what a weird thing to take time to complain about. Like, actually complaining that they chose the wrong format for what they were looking for. They didn't say what they were looking for, just not this. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to get to the parade because this is pretty cool. I really enjoyed this. So what I did was I took my Insta360 X3, my new 360 cam, and I didn't take anything else because this is a lot of just, I didn't want to be keeping track of things. And I actually it was perfect timing. I showed up as the parade started. It started at the Parque de los Indios, which is the very first park against León from Sutiava. So the park starts in Sutiava, but immediately they step into León. And then they go down the main road in León, and then they go north through the city up to the baseball stadium. And so this is a long parade. So I actually walked the entire parade holding the 360 cam. I did a 4K as I walked up to it, but then I switched to the 360 as soon as the parade got underway, and I essentially got the entire parade route, which we're not going to show today. That would be obnoxious. Then you would have every reason to be complaining about my ridiculous vlog format. But for those of you who are interested, if you feel you missed the parade, if you like what you're seeing here and you want to get a completely parade experience, or desfile as it is called here, then absolutely go check out, and I will definitely link it at the end, but our sister channel, Nicaragua 360, has the entire 70-minute long my march of the parade in full 360 degrees. So you can follow everything you see on the show here. You can follow along, and you can move the camera around and look everywhere in the parade and see everything, right? You can see what's behind me, in front of me, what's walking around beside me. If you like some of the characters, you can follow them. You can hear all the music continuously as you go through. There's only one spot where I had to change out a battery, and I made it from the very, very starting point. So you see some of the Gigantonas as they're joining the parade at the very beginning, and I try to move through the parade itself. So sometimes you're seeing the front of it, which is mostly people. Sometimes you're seeing the back of it, which is mostly the Gigantonas. In the middle, you get the Toros. So I try to get the whole thing, and I make it to within sight of the stadium, and my second battery died right as I was coming up on the stadium. So there is technically a few feet at the end I didn't get, but for all intents and purposes, you have the entire 2023 parade to watch. So please, if you have any interest or just want to support the channel, go over to that one and check it out. Let it play in the background if you need to, but if you're interested, definitely watch it. And whether you have a phone and you just move the phone around, or you're scrolling around on the actual YouTube app or whatever, and on TVs, your remote control will normally move it around. You can really watch and hear the parade and I think it's an amazing experience kind of thing, and that will be just coming out as this video comes out, so the timing is perfect. I think it'll be out like 2 hours after this show comes out. So if you watch this right as it releases, it may not be out yet, but it will be out very, very quickly, and I think it's a worthwhile one. I like a lot of the 360 stuff that we do. It's super cool, and it allows for us to make really cool B-roll a lot of times that we're starting to add in. I know I'm terrible with that. Some people have complained about that, and I'm definitely trying to improve. But it really gives such a great way to provide immersion, and this particular one with the parade I think is better than anything we've done with the 360 from just how perfect the 360 format is. I know for some things you guys are like, yeah, the 360 is great because I can go see myself in this location and see what it's like. That's unique and really cool, but with this one it's like you get to be part of the parade. Even people who were there don't get as much of an experience as you may get from watching that video, so very cool. If you live in León, this parade is one of those must-do activities in the city. It's certainly iconic and very important culturally, and it's one of those different cultures coming together as a unified thing within the Nicaragua experience, so it's really important. This is a combination of indigenous cultural traditions with new traditions that arose in the clash of the indigenous culture with the colonial culture coming from Spain during the conquest. And what you see in this parade, and I'm not great as a historian of this particular piece of culture, so I'm going to do my best. Please, if you have more information about it, feel free to comment. That would be fantastic. I know some of you have a lot more time living here. Some of you have time to do the research on these particular events or whatever, and some of you really have some deep knowledge, so everyone actually does appreciate that. Thank you. Get down in those comments and let me know. But so the Gigantonas, or the giantesses, these are a symbol and are used in many different situations, especially in León. They happen all over the country, for sure. This is an important symbol from Nicaraguan culture in general, but they are expressly connected heavily with León and Sutiava, and some of the most iconic ones in the country spend part of their time in the Central Park in León and part of the time in the Museum of Myths and Legends, which is located just south of Central Park if you watched my Color Guard marching band competition video from a few days ago, that was the Plaza San Sebastián, the Church of San Sebastián, which was burned out during the Revolution. Across the street from it was the old prison that was in use around that time and became a museum. Both became museums after the war in 1979. So that museum is the home of the really giant, the truly Gigantona, and that is something incredibly interesting and incredibly special. And I do recommend, we do have videos on that museum, so please go watch those. But if you're going to be in León, one of the things that it would be good to do, right, if you're looking for activities, or if you live here, right, get out and see the museums. That's actually important. That's something that people really do miss, and it really is neat to be able to go to the museums and just learn about things that even locals often don't bother to go to, right? Museums anywhere, wherever you live, go out and go to museums more often. But the Museum of Myths and Legends in León is very cheap, does not take a long time to go through, has some important history to the actual building because it was a prison and used during much of the 20th century for different purposes. So it's important from an actual historical perspective. And then it's got neat exhibits of Nicaraguan traditions, Nicaraguan folklore, and that kind of stuff in that museum, along with just some collector's pieces and some artwork. So it's a nice place. It gets very little traffic. It's great for you to get out and support the community, support the museum, support the history, and learn some things about it. So I highly recommend that. I've done it and enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. You don't need a lot of time. An hour is plenty, most likely. So this giantess represents the colonial presence in Nicaragua. The Europeans were generally seen as fair and tall, fair in skin perspective, definitely not fair with their guns and killing people. And this effigy is used universally in Nicaragua to represent them in parades, in festivals, in whatever, in folklore. And so you're going to see it over and over again as an extremely repeating motif in the Nicaraguan world, and it's one of those really strong motifs that predate the 20th century and predate the 1800 wars. So it goes into the history that's actually really good to connect to, because Nicaragua struggles because it's had such a turbulent time since about 1850 with William Walker sieging the country. Since that time, they've had a very different history than they had before that time. And so having a connection to their colonial past and that particular history is such a strong reminder that the colonial era was a new era to Nicaragua and not the beginning of Nicaragua. And I think that's important to anyone who's from the colonies in the New World to remember, right? That so I grew up in Western New York, and luckily I grew up in an area that was part of the Iroquois Nation, and we would go out in the garden, right? And as a kid, we were still pulling arrowheads out of the garden. You would just be, raking or whatever, be like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's another arrowhead. I had an arrowhead that we found when I was very little, like 2-3 years old. I was so young that I was being explained what an arrow was because we had found it, and my parents gave it to me, which is amazing. Like, I actually grew up owning this really important artifact of the Iroquois Nation and kept it in a box in my room all through my childhood. I always had it. To me, it was this very visceral connection to the fact that our family farm that I grew up on was part of the Iroquois Nation, and the Iroquois had been there before any stories that we would hear about British or Dutch colonies came about at all. And that arrowhead may have been in the ground a year before the British came. It could have been after, of course. It could have been 1,000 years before. And that's important. And here in Nicaragua, it's the same. There's a big population, an important population here that established a long history and a lot of traditions, and did so before the Spanish ever knew that the world was over here. And that history, having that connection, these Gigantona are a reminder that the colonial era was a momentary lapse in the traditional culture. It was a brief period of something different, and to remember it that way. And those effigies are used as a continuous reminder, not so much in this particular festival. There are other festivals that really focus on that, and we've shown that before, but in this one, it's very much a showing, to me, what I believe they're really showing is this combination of cultures, that there's this new thing being brought in, and I think that's why they're at the end of the parade, that there's much more traditional activities at the beginning of the parade, and at the very end is this new presence of the Spanish influence coming in. And so there's that, and then there's these in a similar style effigy is these bowls, and it's these, in all these cases it's generally children, like middle school and maybe a little bit older boys generally are carrying these huge wooden frame structures and dancing through the streets and twirling. And the bowls are like these, it's both a bull or toro, like a raging bull, a running of the bull in the streets. And that's basically what's going on. This is Nicaragua's equivalent of the running of the bulls. But instead of being kind of dumb, like a lot of places where they actually turn real bulls loose in the street and gore people, children will put on these bull effigies with a wood frame. There's a lot of like paper mache. It's not really paper, it's like some kind of thing stuck to it, so it's a little bit more resilient. And they run around the street and they spin around, they try to crash into people, and the crowd carries clubs and they try to beat them down. And I'm not 100% sure why any of it, but the bulls are a really important symbol of Nicaragua, and especially Sutiava, hence why they're called the bulls of Sutiava. And the whole like taming the bulls thing is very connected to the running of the bulls in other places. So it's really interesting, and people have a lot of fun with it. And so these parades are a little bit on the dangerous side, because you're moving through the city and suddenly these bulls are spinning around. And it's not just that, I mean, obviously it's just a 15-year-old with a bull, B-O-W-L shaped bull, B-U-L-L, on their head and spinning quickly. And it's going to hurt, it's going to crash, it could knock you over. But what really gets you is these big groups of crowds that suddenly swarm away or towards where these bulls are, and you'll get just swept with them, knocked off your feet, trampled. Like, you got to be careful. But it's really not too terrible. You can watch everything in the video and see at no point was it really like dangerous. Like, that's not like that. It is these types of parades, when I'm walking through here, it is recommended, do not carry anything you don't need to carry. I didn't worry at all. I had money in my pockets, I had a phone in my pocket, I had, watch on, like Apple Watch and all that, like, not a problem. But it's generally recommended, empty your pockets, only carry a couple dollars, enough to buy a bottle of water or some snacks. Definitely buy some snacks, support the vendors, but don't carry excess money, don't do anything you don't need to do, don't have your watch on, don't have any jewelry, maybe don't carry your phone, or make sure it's really well protected. Don't be like me, walking in the middle of the parade, running into people, being like totally jostled around, having to pay attention to a camera, having your pockets full of stuff. Like, that's not smart, but it's also not a big risk, so it's all perspective. But being smart is still being smart. But the whole parade, a lot of fun. And I talked the other day about the importance of getting out and being involved in cultural activities, and this is a really strong example, much stronger than the color guard competition. This is something that many more times of people come out and watch. If you notice, there are people in all the windows, all the doorways watching. Most of the sidewalks are full, but also thousands of people join in the streets and march down the street with the parade. They're part of the parade, and that is generally the case. In most of these events that I've seen, people join the parade and just walk with them. It's much less formal than you would see in, say, the United States or Canada, and I used to march in parades. Never would the crowd just join the parade and march along with them, ever. Like, that would not work. It would not work. They would not do it. They would not allow it. Like, that would be crazy. Here, it's exactly what they do. It's everybody just pours into the street and walks through the city. It's more like a religious procession, but this is definitely a parade, but it's more like a religious procession than it is like a parade, that it's, everyone's welcome to join, and it's a symbol and culture, and it's something that everyone shared, and it's not like an official group of people who do it and an unofficial group who watches. Everybody is part of the community and invited to participate, and you meet people on the sidewalk, you meet people in the crowd, you meet people in the parade. Like, it's neat. And it's a great way to connect, and especially if you're a foreigner like me, you stand out, and it's like, wow, really exciting that a foreigner is taking part in this very cultural and heritage and community activity that doesn't really have much of a place for foreigners. And as I marched it, right, the number of foreigners that I saw was extremely few. So being in that position where you stand out as someone making an effort to participate. And for me, it's also easy. I carry the camera. A lot of people, especially because I'm carrying the 360 camera for this, a lot of people were dancing for the camera, paying attention to it, coming to see me, waving, watching me. Like, I've got a lot of very positive attention. And Nicaraguan just routinely, right? If you watch, I go past the police, they're all perfectly happy, they're protecting me, they're whatever. There's nobody like, oh, a camera. There's no like, you shouldn't do that. There's no, you can't be here. It's like, oh, you're filming? Get in here, right? Go and get involved, be able to capture everything, do what you need to do. And thanks for coming, right? Like, it's really great, welcoming kind of attitude across the board from everybody. So I had a really good time recording. I try to do these parades on a regular basis. Whenever I know they're happening and I'm able to get out to it, I really like to come show it because it is something very unique and very Nicaraguan and important culturally. And the content is also nice for Nicaraguans. There are a lot who can't get out and see it or living abroad or whatever and can't see their hometown parade, and it gives them something to connect to as well, because it is hard to get that content in a lot of cases, especially in 360. Like, that's unique. But it's a fun event, and this is just a perfect example. I said to get out and do stuff in your community. Do things like this for sure. Do things like the folklore ballet. Do things like concerts and food fairs, right? And shopping. Like, get out when those things are happening. Put it on your calendar. Get yourself out the door. Don't be like, I just want to finish this one TV show. I just need one more beer. I just need it. No. Say, this is important. I'm going to connect more. I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to branch out. Maybe it won't be a thing that resonates with you, but I bet you'll find that at the end of the day, it costs extremely little, if anything. It is easy, it is not scary, and it makes you feel better about your community, and your community feel better about you, and gives you an opportunity to be that much closer and integrated. I think you will appreciate it. I know your community will. And this is obviously in Nicaragua, this is true, but it's true so many places. Get out there, join your community stuff. This is a great example of it. Thank you for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you want to support this channel and help me get things like the Insta360 that allows me to make footage like this. You can help support me at the link above, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. That is, we did a fundraiser just a few weeks ago where we did a concerted effort to get me a new camera. I have not ordered it yet because I'm waiting for a used one that meets the specs I need, and it has not been available yet, but I'm on a watch list. That sounds bad. I'm on a list that watches for that camera and sends me a note as soon as it becomes available. We're going to do that. This community did raise the funds over a period of months to buy the 360 that was used for this. Those donations, they're not paying me in reality, right? I don't make any money from this channel. All that money goes into buying the graphics for the channel, the editing for the channel, the computer to make it happen, all of that. There's a lot of expenses, and you guys help make this possible, so thank you so much for those who are supporting or considering and are just hitting the like button or just sharing on social media, putting it on Reddit, putting it on Facebook, hitting up people and they ask questions in a group somewhere, and you say, you know what, I know a video that's going to answer some things about this. Let me go link that for you. Check this guy out. He's on the ground experiencing Nicaragua firsthand. And for those who have not noticed, we are in the process of rebranding. It'll say on your screen now, Scott Allen Miller is living in Nicaragua. We're trying to make us the show a little bit more obviously about Nicaragua, because that was not its original intent, and it just sort of happened, and now we have to adjust to take care of that, kind of like we need to adjust to be a little bit less of a vlog, I guess. Let me know what you think, and what format stuff should I change. I'm not going to just be careful making suggestions on that, because I can't just go change. I have to be very, very careful about it, both what I'm able to do, what would not ruin my life, and what people will like in general, right? Because it's easy to be like, but I want this. Well, but these other 90 people don't. So it is tough, but I do want feedback. Get down there in the comments, say hi if nothing else, and I will see all of you mañana.